All praise be to Yahweh, Bashim Yahweh Shai, Bashim Kwakadash. Double honor to the elders and the apostles of the great millstone. Shalom to the whole collective Israel. 1/3. I've been viewing some things based on what our elders told us or has been telling us. Going into Revelation chapter 12. And I want to go to verse 3, where it speaks of the 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon the head of the red dragon, the great red dragon, which is, predominantly, if I'm incorrect, please correct me, but Rome. All right. Esau, Edom. All right, and this red dragon is a system, or it has been led by people, a system that has been led by the people of Esau, Edom, from the Greeks to the British. All of Esau's empires, the 7 heads, 10 horns, the 8th head being America, aka Rome Part 2. Okay, and I have a video I want to play as well, but let me start at Revelation chapter 12 verse 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and having and 7 crowns upon his head. These are rulerships, right? Empires belonging to Esau from the Grecian period to the Romans, because the Romans took over after the Grecians. All right. During the time of Yahweh Shai walking on the earth, Rome was in power. That's why he went to Pilate, what they call him, Caesars, when they had convicted him of blaspheming, the Most High. Which still goes on in this day and time. But along the time, what I want to focus on is one of the kingdoms, one of the rulerships, all right? One of the empires of Esau, Edom during this time. And that's between the Franks and the Gauls. At one time, the Gauls were ruling, and then the Franks came in, destroyed the Gauls, and then the Franks were turned into French or France. This is just based on what I'm learning. If I'm wrong, please correct me. We don't have no problem with being corrected here. That's a part of the 100% truth, of having the 100% truth. But I want to pull up this before I go into that. We're going to go into Franks versus Gauls. The Gauls were a collection of Celtic tribes living in France. The Franks were a single Germanic people from Eastern Europe. All right? Because Europe has been spread out. At this time, you have the Germanic Major and Germanic Minor empires going on. And that was after the Greeks and after the Romans. In between the times where the French and the Spanish and then the British came up. And that might not be in particular order, but all right. The Gauls were conquered by Rome, and the Franks eventually founded the northern nations of France and Germany, Germania minor, Germanic major, Germanic minor. Are the French descendants from the Franks or Gauls? The French people, especially the native speakers of Langue d'Oil from northern and central France, are primarily descended from Gauls, including the Belgians. Romans or Gaulo-Romans, Western Europe, Celtic and Italic peoples, as well as Germanic people, such as the Franks, the Visigoths, the Suebi, so on and so forth. All right, but in these countries, if they want to call them that, there were Israelites. All right, and the Gauls being the ones mainly oppressed, a lot of them, speaking as a man, were Israelites. A lot, not saying all, not saying most, but a lot were Israelites from the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's how you know that this ministry has been preached into all the world. It's being preached into all the world to gather the elect. It doesn't matter how you look. It matters how your spirit resonates with this truth going out in these last days and time, which is a sign of faith, which is a sign that the Holy Spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is working with you. All right? Where was I at? Romans. Let me see if I can find some more. Did the Franks defeat the Gauls? Although the Franks would eventually conquer all of Gaul, speakers of Frankish apparently expanded in significant numbers only into northern Gaul to have a linguistic effect. For several centuries, northern Gaul was a bilingual territory, vulgar Latin and Frankish. The Franks would eventually conquer Gaul, and the Franks would turn into French or whatever. When did the Gauls become Franks? The firm establishment of the Franks in northeastern Gaul by the year of 480 meant that both the former Roman provinces of Germania and part of the two former Bulgaric provinces were lost to Roman rule. All right? So this beast, this devil, this dragon, Rome, has been since the Grecian period, since Yahweh Shai, and it's still here to this day. Still here to this day, conquering military might through religious deceptions, controlling the world. Esau, Edom. Well over 2,000 years now. 2,000 years meaning 2 days. According to the heavens, the third day. Let me see, man. Let me see. If I might. Call hello, Yahweh Bashim Shah. Hosea chapter 6 and verse 2. After 2 days will he revive us. In the third day he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. After 2 days he will revive us, and right now we're being revived. It's been more than exactly 2,023 years at this point in time. If you could see the prophecies, how things have fallen into line just perfectly. We're entering into the third day. Hosea 6:2 again. After 2 days will he revive us, letting us know who we are, coming back to his law, statutes, and commandments, rehearsing the righteous acts in the land of drawing water, our captivity. In the land where they say that we were not the children of the Most High, he's letting it known that we will start to know that we are the children of the Most High, that we are the children of God. In the third day, he will raise us up. And you could put that into becoming new mentally, the new covenant, where he will put his law, statutes, and commandments in our inward parts, being raised up, having a new body, into the chariots, away from the destruction, true salvation. And we shall live in his sight. Going back to Micah. Let me pull that up. Micah chapter 7. Okay. Micah chapter 7, starting at verse 9. I will bear the indignation of the Lord because I have sinned against him, until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. He will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold his righteousness. To the light, being beamed up into the chariots, to behold his righteousness, being endowed with the new covenant, that we sin no more. All based on his grace, which comes by faith through works. Rehearsing the righteous acts. All right, let's go back to the Franks would eventually conquer all of Gaul. These are nations fighting against each other. Nations of Esau, Edom, primarily, just like right now, what's going on right now. On the soils around the whole world, from Russia to America to all the other heathen nations under Esau, getting ready for this battle, this war, this Armageddon to take place in the valley of Jehoshaphat. Yahweh Shaphat, Salakia. Let me see. I don't want to lose. I'm kind of all over the place, Salakia. But let's find out when Rome was established. April 21st, 753 BC. The traditional date for the founding of Rome is April 21st, 753 BC. Wolfsuckers faint. Why I pull this up is, okay, this is Rome. You had the Greece, then you had Rome. After Rome, you had Italy, London, the Vatican City, Berlin, Amsterdam. They had different names not too long ago. Let me see if I'm not bugging out. Salakia, here we go. France. When was France founded? Salakia family. September 22, 1792. And after this, you had Spain, Italy, it was already Germania Major, Germania Minor. These are all European countries, all so-called Edomite countries, fighting against each other. And just like America, how they had the Civil War, and they so-called put this big stamp on the most of the Negroes in the northern, from the northern of America that was fighting in the war. Plus, of course, the bankers suppressing the South, not supplying them with the monies and the food and the military might they need to, it's the same shit. Esau, Edom, the Roman Empire, they have not stopped. And we're in the same shit right now, going through them fighting against each other. And as they said at the camp, they bang on each other. But it's worldly. They'll let you know how we do the same thing against our own people in the neighborhoods for crumbs, for nothing. Because 2/3 of our people are attracted to the lifestyle of Esau, Edom. Everything he put on your TV screen, through your radio, everything, all of it, is how he would run the world. And you got niggas in the ghetto, so-called, in the ghetto, that follow these same principles and don't care, or when the time comes, because a lot of us that know the truth now has been in those predicaments. When the time comes, they're either going to wake up or get taken out. Put it like that. They're either going to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, or get taken out. And it's all through the grace of Yahweh Shem Shah. If they are, reserved or saved, or are a part of the elect, the innumerable multitude, if not of the actual ruling class. But these guys right here, they make up let's go back to it. In Revelation chapter 12, verse 3, and there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. So from the Franks to the Spanish to the British, which was heavily implemented in our slavery, our captivity. The so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. What do y'all speak? British or English, French, or you have the Ebonics, or British English. You got the Ebonics, the Negroes in America, and then you have Patois, the so-called West Indians, and then you have French, the so-called Haitians, the Creole, and then you have the 10 tribes, the northern kingdom of Israel that speak Spanish, that captured us and put us on this side of the world. And they were ruling or being conquered by Rome. All right. It's one more passage I found earlier. Yeah. Let's find out, when was Yahushua? So-called born according to the times that they put on the internet. And they call his name Jesus. We know that that's a lie. His name is Yahushua, the only begotten Son of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. But I'm going to go to people. People also ask, when did Yahushua appear on earth? Using these methods, most scholars assume a date of birth between 6 and 4 BC, and that Yahushua's preaching began around 2000 AD to 29 AD. Because it was written that he preached till he was 33 or something in that number range. So he was 30 years old. He preached from 30 to 33, like 3 years or 3.5 years. And then the disciples that was turned into apostles, they preached another 3.5 years, which is 7 years, a perfect number. All right. And lasted 1 to 3 years. Okay. They calculated the death of Yahushua as having taken place between AD 30 and AD 36. So only what 34 to 40 years later, that's 70 AD, that's when Jerusalem was compassed with the armies of Rome. After that, you had the uprising of those nations that's right here now today in these days and time that's a part of the beast system. The UN, NATO, the military might, all coming from DC. Babylon the Great, aka America. Rome, Part 2. In 70 AD, just according to this, right? According to this, just 40 years at the most is when Yahushua told our people to go into the mountains. Let me see if I can get it, man. Why? Let's see if that takes us there. Okay. Yeah. Luke 21, verse 20. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains. And where's the mountains? Going into the Africa, into other parts of Germanic, of Rome at that time, and Germanic Minor, all these other different countries in major, in Asia, not just Africa. We spread out the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob through the 12 tribes of Israel. Starting, at that point in time, which was 3 of the stars, 3 of the tribes of Israel, Benjamin, Levi, and Judah, to all the world. We don't know who we are at this point in time, only by the Spirit. And in due time, that innumerable multitude is going to be revealed to all the world. Who is the Lord's chosen? Let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. That was just 40 years. I'm just reading this right now. 40 years after Yahweh Shem Shah, went to the heavens. And 2 days are up. We're well over 2 days at this point in time. Let me put that scripture one more time. I guess I'm going to close this out, man. Matter of fact, no, I want to get that video. Salakia, family. Let me get that verse one more time. Where you at? No, that's not the one. Salakia. And I'll put up it. Matter of fact, let me get that video now. I'll look up the scripture. Just keep everything I said in mind while you watch this.
You could save hundreds a year on groceries by shopping at Aldi. No sales or coupons needed. You just always...
Yeah.
Be entirely accurate because there's no way. If I show you this, you can probably guess what it is. This memorable hexagon is mainland France, and it has been for quite a long time. But this wasn't an inevitability. The process of turning Gaul into the land of the Franks was a long and bloody affair, one that has had a very big impact on the history of Europe and the world as a whole. To start this tale of war, conquest, and kings, we've got to start with Rome, or more accurately, Western Rome. The Western Roman Empire began to decay as soon as it was split up from the Eastern Roman Empire. The reasons for this are extensive, but one of the symptoms and/or causes was the increased dependence on German mercenaries. These mercenaries would become so powerful that they made their own independent kingdoms within the Western Roman Empire's territory. That is until a Goth named Odoacer went to Rome and killed it once and for all. Now, keep in mind that this period in history is extremely foggy. The chronology and the who's who of it all can get a little confusing and may not be entirely accurate because there's no real consensus on this stuff. After Odoacer took over Italy, Western Rome was split up between many different groups. The groups that took over Gaul were the Visigoths, Burgundians, Alemanni, Soissons, Armorica, or Brittany if you don't want to be pedantic, as well as the Franks. The Franks were a Germanic confederation of multiple different kingdoms that used to be across the Rhine from the Romans. During Rome's 3rd century crisis, they took part in the common German pastime of sacking Roman towns. After the crisis, the Salian Franks were settled within the Roman Empire by one of the emperors. They mostly became a Roman ally until the Western Roman Empire began its slow and painful death. One of the kings credited with expanding Frankish influence violently during the decay is Clodio. Clodio may or may not have had a child named Merovec, who may or may not have had a child named Childeric. Childeric's main claim to fame is his son Clovis. Childeric and Clovis were Frankish kings, but they weren't the king of the Franks. The territory that Clovis would inherit from his father was based around Tournai. Clovis became king around the year 481, probably at the age of 16. In the 5th year of his reign, he would kick off a chain of events that would lead to the Frankish domination of Gaul. Clovis, along with his relative and fellow Frankish king Ragnacar, invaded the domain of Soissons, the last bastion of legitimate Roman rule. The domain of Soissons was a territory of the Roman Empire that was under the control of Aegidius, a Roman general, ruling from the city of Soissons. Aegidius successfully repelled any invasion attempts from Germans even after Odoacer took Italy. Aegidius died suddenly and left his young son Syagrius as the man in charge. Syagrius is the general that Clovis was up against in 486. The battle took place near the city that Syagrius ruled from. Needless to say, the battle was a decisive victory for Clovis and his comrade. Syagrius fled all the way to the court of Alaric II, the king of the Visigoths in Toulouse. Clovis sent envoys demanding that Alaric send Syagrius to him. Alaric didn't want to be enemies with the man who defeated the Romans that the Visigoths were having such a hard time fighting, so Alaric complied. Clovis imprisoned Syagrius in an unknown location. Clovis may have successfully invaded Soissons, but subjugating it was a different matter entirely. It took years to completely subjugate northern Gaul, but when Clovis was completely sure of his position, he quietly executed Syagrius. Now this is where the fogginess makes things very, very confusing. Gregory of Tours, one of the sources we have for Clovis's reign, claims that Clovis then invaded and subjugated the Thuringians. This is highly unlikely for a few reasons. Seeing as this episode in Clovis's reign has so many questions, I'm going to say that Clovis won a victory against an unknown tribe and increased his sphere of influence, but not the border of his territory. What did expand Clovis's territory was his war against the Alemanni. The Alemanni were another confederation of Germanic peoples. They had battles with many Roman emperors, and they even invaded Italy at least twice. Like most German tribes, the invading Huns pushed them to invade Rome and carve out a sizable chunk of land for themselves in Gaul. There was a lot of tension between the Franks and Alemanni, but the specifics of the skirmishes and battles between them are hardly known. What we can be sure of is that there was at least one war where Clovis and the king of the Ripuarian Franks, Sigebert, were personally involved. The Franks won this war, but Sigebert got shot in the knee or the foot in the process. Sigebert did get the epithet the lame after this. This wasn't an insult, but it's literally because he was lame in one leg. This wouldn't be the last time that the Franks were to deal with the Alemanni, but this would be the last time that Clovis would be personally involved. Not the last time he'd be involved in a war, though. Soon after this, Clovis would receive an envoy from a sub-king, the sub-king of Burgundy.
No matter who you are, being yourself can be tough when you have severe asthma. Triggers can pop up out of nowhere.
The sub-king of Burgundy. The Burgundians were another Germanic people that came from across the Rhine. After supporting a failed usurper for the Roman imperial throne, the Burgundians were allowed to settle within the Roman territory on the Rhine. Gunther attempted to expand further in Gaul, but got absolutely destroyed by Hunnic mercenaries working for the Western Roman army. Eventually they were allowed to settle again, but this time they were settled around Lake Geneva as a buffer against the Alemanni. The leader that they settled under was Gundiac. The Burgundian king established the territory that made up the kingdom of the Burgundians. After he died, his brother became king for a brief period before he died as well, leaving the territory to Gundiac's sons, Gundamar, Chilperic, Gundabad, and Godigisel. I am probably butchering all those names, but I've probably been butchering every single name so far, so why stop now? Gundamar disappears from our sources, so I won't talk about him. Gundabad murders Chilperic and exiles his two daughters, though. One of those daughters is Clotilde, the future saint and wife of Clovis. Anyway, about that sub-king. The sub-king was Godigisel. Godigisel wished for assistance against his last remaining brother, Gundabad. Clovis agreed. They planned a day for the battle, and when the time came, Clovis marched his army towards his wife's homeland. Gundabad didn't know about the plot, and so he asked his brother for assistance against this oncoming force. When they all met, Godigisel switched sides as planned, and Gundabad's army got absolutely pummeled. Gundabad fled to a fortified city where Clovis had begun a long siege. Godigisel, on the other hand, went to Vienne to claim his territory. But Gundabad wasn't done yet. Clovis eventually lifted the siege before even getting Gundabad. According to Gregory, this was due to Gundabad's cunning servant convincing Clovis to make a deal. The defeated king was to pay a tribute to Clovis for the rest of his life. When time came to pay the tribute, he didn't. Instead, he organized a whole new army, and he then attacked his brother. Despite his efforts, he couldn't hold the besieging forces back. They found Godigisel and killed him. He then reclaimed his throne. Despite Gundabad's recovery, Europeans found it difficult to ignore Clovis's victories and growing power over Gaul. Alaric II recognized that Clovis's early victories weren't a fluke, so he offered to meet with him. They met near Amboise, where they feasted, swore eternal friendship, and went back home in peace. Soon Clovis would march south towards his eternal friend with the intention of war against the Visigoths. The Visigoths were a Gothic tribe of people who split up from the Ostrogoths. The Goths played a vital role during Rome's 3rd century crisis, and like the Alemanni, the Huns are the ones that pushed them into Rome. They mostly fought with the Eastern Roman Empire until Alaric I pushed into Western Rome. Also, like the Alemanni, they invaded Italy. The Visigoths then settled in southern Gaul and slowly expanded into Spain and more of southern Gaul. The exact reason for Clovis's invasion is unknown, although for a long time the consensus was that Clovis, a recently converted Chalcedonian Christian, wanted to expel the Arians from Gaul.
Okay. All right. This is a reoccurring thing that's going on inside the kingdom of Esau, Edom. He's been against his own people all this time. And in these days and time, 2/3 of Israel is doing this, following the same belief system. All right. They've been doing this since Greece, since Alexander the Greek. They've been doing this. Matter of fact, let me get it. Let me go there first. Let's go to First Maccabees, and I'm gonna use the GNT because for some reason they won't have the King James version pop up. First Maccabees, and I'm gonna start at verse 1. This history begins when Alexander the Greek, it's a Greek, son of Philip of Macedonia, marched from Macedonia and attacked Darius, king of Persia and Media. All right. the Persians and Medes, as you can read in Daniel. After the Persians and Medes, the dream that Daniel was given about the Persians and the Medes, and then after those, the ones that conquered the Persians and Medes was going to be the Grecians. King of marched from Macedonia and attacked Darius, king of Persia and Media. Alexander enlarged the Greek empire by defeating Darius and seizing his throne. He fought many battles, captured fortified cities, and put the kings of the region to death. As he advanced to the ends of the earth, he plundered many nations, and when he had conquered the world, he became proud and arrogant. By building up a strong army, he dominated whole nations and their rules, and forced everyone to pay taxes until this day. When Alexander, verse 5 through 7, when Alexander had been emperor for 12 years, he fell ill and realized that he was about to die. He called together his generals, noblemen who had been brought up with him since his early childhood, and he divided his empire, giving a part to each of them. After his death, the generals took control, and each had himself crowned king of his own territory. The descendants of these kings ruled for many generations and brought a great deal of misery on the world. Right? Antiochus Epiphanes and the renegade Jews. Verse 10. The wicked ruler Antiochus Epiphanes, son of King Antiochus, or Antiochus, the third of Syria, was a descendant of one of Alexander's generals. Antiochus Epiphanes had been a hostage in Rome before he became king of Syria in that year. Verse 11, at that time there appeared in the land of Israel a group of traitorous Jews who had no regard for the law and who had a bad influence on many of our people. They said, let's come to terms with the Gentiles, for our refusal to associate with them has brought us nothing but trouble. All right, to this day, 2/3 of Israel. Let's go and deal with them, because when we start listening to these dudes out here that's telling us how to live righteous and get back on track with Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, we always go through something. All right? Where did 2022 come from, or 2020 come from? These dudes out here on highways and hedges talking this stuff, bringing prophecies and all this stuff. Speak to us smooth things. Right? That's what they is. That's what they saying. But let's get back to the men. The men of Alexander the Great, or Greek. I wouldn't say the Great, but Greek. Alexander the Greek's 4 generals who divided his empire were Ptolemy, Cassander, Seleucus, and Antagonist. No, that's not what I want. All right, here it says, who were the three generals that took control of Alexander's empire after his death? In a series of wars from their power based in Asia Minor, all right, Antagonist and his son and heir, Demetrius, took control over almost all of Alexander's empire. The Diadochi. Oh, that's a long. I ain't about to get into all that. Salakia family. I'm just learning right now. A matter of fact, let me go to this. The age of the Diadochi of Alexander the Greek was one of the bloodiest pages of Greek history. A series of ambitious generals attempted to secure parts of Alexander's empire, leading to the creation of the kingdoms that shaped the Hellenistic world. That means they made Israelites into Gentiles. Since Greece to Rome, France, British, and Spanish, here to America, Hellenistic, following after the heathen customs. Till this very day. You know, and all of this has been brought up and brought forth through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shai. You know, and I'm not going to call them out, but man, that's why we give double honors. In the spirit, through spirit and truth. Because after saying something like that, you put a name on people. It's like you know. But if you know, you know. Double honors again to our elders and apostles. Boy. Is there anything else? One more thing I want to go over. One more thing, I believe. Yep. Let's go to KJV. Ecclesiasticus chapter 14, verse 10. Because we've all been, and all the other nations, as you've seen in the beginning of this video, have been brought into Esau, Edom's way of life, carnality, his blessing, the sword, war after war after war, and especially against his own people. From Alexander the Greek and his generals fighting against each other for land, for territory. The same thing niggas in the hood so-called doing, fighting for land and territory that they don't even own, that they don't even get no resources from. 2/3. That's how caught up our people are in this man society. And that's why Yahweh Shabbat got to come back and do what he about to do. Ecclesiasticus chapter 14, verse 10. And this applies to Esau, Edom, and, you know, the other heathen nations, and 2/3 of Israel that believe in his way of life, which will be destroyed. I need my damn tea. Ecclesiasticus chapter 14, verse 10 again. A wicked eye envieth his bread, and he is a niggard at his table. And at the same time, Yahweh Shemel Shai is preparing the table. All right? You know, for the house of King David, before our enemies. Because while Esau Edom has had this time to do what he has to do, and has prepared a table for himself amongst all the world, even drawing all the other heathen nations to itself, you know, drawing all nations to, heaping all nations to himself. He don't know what righteousness is, and that's why it's going to fall. It's bad fruit. It must be cast into the fire. Again, Ecclesiasticus chapter 14 and 10. A wicked eye envieth his bread, and he is a niggard at his table. What does niggard mean? I already know, kind of. It means like stingy, like selfish.
Niggard.
Niggard. A stingy or ungenerous person. You know, is not grateful for anything. You know, even back to the parable of the let me get it. Jeremiah 49:9. Well, matter of fact, I'm gonna go up because we gotta know who we talking about, right? Jeremiah 49 verse 7. Concerning Edom, thus saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman, Germania, Germany? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Flee ye, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan. For I will bring the calamity of Esau, Edom, upon him, the time that I will visit him. Verse 9. If grape gatherers come to thee, would they have leave some gleaming grapes? If these by night, they will destroy till they have enough. Verse 10. But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren, and his neighbor, and he is not. All these countries have been, they're going to be spoiled. They're being spoiled right now as we speak. It's the 4th of July. A year ago, 2 years ago, it used to be so damn smoky. Tonight was so clear. The fashion of this world is passing away. All through the word of Yahweh Shem Shah. Okay, I'm with that, man. I'm gonna close out. I'm gonna close out with that, man. I mean, I don't think I got anything else pretty much to go into. Just going in the spirit. You know, hopefully this lesson is edifying to the hopeful elect of Israel. Wake up, Jacob. You know, as the blood brother, Thamwath always say. And till next time, Kwam Yashlakia. Let's give our praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Kwakadash, and double honor to our elders and apostles. GMS. Shalom to the hopeful elect of Israel. Bakar Kodash. Wa Abba Babal.